there will be times where I just have this thing where I hyper focus in my head, and that's probably been the most debilitating. Where there's just this type of thing I just call a traffic jam, where it ruminates and I try to fix it, ruminates, try to fix it. So that's actually a main cycle that I'm trying to bring up right now. I'm actually in a 4-month CBT program at the moment. But that one I had one that lasted about 3 weeks, where it was just like I couldn't really do much. And that was incredibly challenging, mostly because it's incredibly painful. And you want to do anything you can to get out of it, which makes it worse. It turns into a bit of a Chinese figure trap, trying to get out of it.
I just call it a figure trap.
Yeah, sorry.
But
that's good.
We might have to edit this. I don't know.
because I am Filipino and I don't want to, But
yeah, true.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine.
how do you know Colin Wilson? Willie?
How did I meet Willie? I met him on, we had a Zoom meeting one time, a bunch of NHLers, and we were talking. That's how I met him, along with you. I met him, I met you. And then certainly, it's just funny, the story. I played with his dad in New York, and my wife was pregnant with my daughter, Tara, at the time. And Willie's dad, his wife was pregnant, his mother, with him at the same time. And it's just weird. You know, he's born in Greenwich, Connecticut. I live the next town over from Kerry Wilson, Colin's dad. And all these years later, here I am now, friends with...
No, I think that kind of shit's
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm friends
like,
with his son.
That unborn child, I'll be,
Yeah.
we'll be helping each other someday. I'm not going to tell you where, but we will be helping each other someday.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And when I think of it, Kerry, I haven't seen his dad since, we played hockey in New York. That was it. See you later, Kerry. Take care. Have a good life. And end up meeting Colin. And we actually met.
You haven't even talked to his dad or crossed paths?
Haven't seen him since I played with him.
That's wow.
Crazy. And
What kind of player was he?
He was a gifted center iceman. He had a very good shot, good playmaker, solid on his skates, very good player. And, he was a smart kid like his son. He passed his brain down to Colin, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't even know. Colin's, he just uses big words. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just,
kind of to
smart.
show us like dumb hockey players up. That
just really confuses someone like me I'm like, this guy's a genius. No, he does have a really good, he is intelligent, you could tell.
Yeah.
He like reads and processes things. I struggle at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I need a teacher.
He gets a little deep, he seems like his point of view on certain things. He goes places where you wouldn't expect, right? You're like, wow, where'd that come from, right? And, certainly...
He talks like a, what do they call them? Like a therapist.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Today, welcome Colin Wilson going to join us today. 11 years, National Hockey League, played with the Avalanche, played with the Preds, drafted by the Preds. And, funny, played with Colin's dad, Kerry Wilson, in New York. And I knew Colin before he knew I knew him. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys. What's the story? You knew him before. What did you just say? I
kind of knew him before today. You know what I mean? Before I met him. You know, actually, the story is, and I mentioned it before to you, Tim, and Colin. But Colin's mom was pregnant with him when I was playing with the Rangers, and my wife was actually pregnant with my daughter Tara at the same time. So I kind of kind of knew Willie before I knew Willie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's no formal introduction, but
No formal.
little later on.
All right,
Yeah,
Willie.
no, we were talking about that. How like it's like, hey, your unborn child, we're gonna one day help each other.
Exactly.
Well, you're 32 years old. A lot of people see that. You're 32, retired from hockey. What's going on now? What are you doing now?
I'm in my final 4 month of college, and then I graduate. So I'm here in Boston, in Southie. You know Southie
South
well.
Bushton.
Yeah, I'm basically just a local Southie kid. But yeah, finishing up my degree in psychology at BU. Be done in May. Get to walk, and at the moment also applying for graduate school. Got engaged, doing that whole thing. So yeah, things are moving.
Wait, you're in college, like you're going to campus, and you're just like, I know it's a dumb question, but like
no, I'm. It started during the pandemic at least, so it was online, so it was less awkward that I was at the time a 31-year-old in a room with, like going and trying to speak French with 18-year-olds. So, but now, I'm in a classroom. Like I literally just got out of a classroom where, I'm bumbling my words with these like 18-year-olds sitting next to me, and I'm having to give a presentation on Montreal. It's some elementary stuff, but it's an interesting time. But enjoying the education side of it.
32 played in the show. Yeah,
Yeah, I slipped that in. I know how to say that in French.
Yeah.
Now, how is that? You're back at school at your age, and with all them younger students, do they all know that you played in the NHL? And are they like, big hockey star in class or what?
Nobody has an idea who I am. They
probably think you're like a teacher, like part of the staff.
Yeah, trying to get my hours up to be a teacher. I don't know. I have the face mask on, which I think can bring my age where they think maybe I'm a little bit younger and they're trying to figure it out. But no, there's not much. Nobody knows what I do.
Are you the only one that wears a face mask?
No, we have to. Yeah,
that liberal bastion at Boston University.
He's like, I don't want anyone to notice how old I am, so I'm just gonna keep wearing this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's so yeah, that's helped, but no, it's really not this like big man on campus. It's more just some old dude on campus who's going from class to class.
The old perverted dude going back to school at his age. Yeah. No, I'm only teasing. Come on, Willie. Listen, okay, back at school and you played at BU in college. Now, is that why you have such an affinity for Boston? It seems to me like you really love Boston. A lot of people, they go off to college, great. They have fun in the town. I'm going back home when it's over. And here you are back in Beantown. What's that?
I enjoyed the training here a lot. So I just started coming back here. And especially, my first 2 years playing professionally, it was nice to come back and be on campus during the summers and hang out with a bunch of, people my age. So I just started doing that. And then after a while, just kind of stayed, kept training, bought a house. So it wasn't too hard for me to come back, and just kind of enjoy it. I enjoy the city, enjoy Boston, and it's actually been very nice in retirement being able to really enjoy the community more, do some walks at Castle Island. I didn't even know that place existed.
Sullivan's, grab a burger, clam roll, a box of fries, right?
Yeah,
you guys should just talk about Boston this whole show.
Well, we could. I'm sure we could.
Yeah.
What are you studying there? You're graduating to be
psychology.
What?
Yeah, psychology. So
That's
doing
right.
Psychology predominantly, but it's been interesting. Obviously, it's I wasn't going to go back to college unless I said I had something I wanted to do, and psychology through my own story obviously became incredibly interesting to me. So it's been cool to go back to school and learn, but also learn about myself, others around me, kind of learning, psychoanalysis and, more theory-based stuff, but this also taking neuro courses. So kind of getting a whole spectrum, which I'm sure BU tries to accomplish with a degree in psychology.
Yeah, you say that. It's funny. Going back to school, studying this, you almost said, like, I want to figure myself out, which is awesome. But for people who don't really know or are aware of your situation, you retire at a young age. You had some physical things with your hip. I get that. But you played your entire career OCD. You didn't, well, you had a tough time dealing with that during your career. Now, you were in the Players Tribune. You wrote a couple articles, one on the OCD, and then you came out with a second one about drug addiction. That, I guess, dual addiction, if you will. Did you think that the addiction piece came because of the OCD?
Yeah, there's a lot of question, I think, for everybody around addiction. Like, are you born that way, or does it come on? Is it environmental type thing? So I'm sure if I took care of my OCD, I would have fared much better, and maybe not developing at the beginning a drug habit, which turned into a drug addiction. But yeah, I definitely, I would lean that way. I think it was a faulty coping mechanism on my part. At the beginning, gave me relief, and then by the end of it, it was something that was an incredibly negative impact on my life. So I think, if I could have started things at a little bit earlier, the type of recovery that I'm on now and the type of tools that I have could have been a bit of a different story, but you just never know.
Did you start studying like psychology when the second article came out? Like, like you came out with the OCD, did you actually like was it just like you knew you were hiding like the addiction part, or did you kind of like throughout a little bit of a time where like, I am this too?
Yeah, I think that so a part of me didn't want, I think it was too much. I thought it would be too much to throw in what I wanted to throw in. If I said I wanted to describe OCD and mental health, and then I thought it would be too much to also throw in addiction and properly explain it and properly explain what I was going through, because I think they're both very abstract comments unless you're in recovery. So I didn't want to muddy the waters, but at the same time I wasn't necessarily ready to admit to the world that I was an addict, and felt as though I didn't feel comfortable with it, felt I would be judged more. And that's not to speak on it slightly obviously speaks on the stigma of it, but I just felt more comfortable at the time also just speaking on OCD. But I mean, in either of those situations, it kind of does take a lot to get you there. I
would have judged the shit out of you if you'd put that all in one article. This weirdo with a drug.
It would have been a novel. People would be like, geez, where do I pick up the book?
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, the OCD, and you talk about it, and you're very open about it. But when did you recognize it the first time? Okay, and I'm not saying in your career, first time in your life, did you recognize it or look back when you were young and go, oh, that's what that was? And then when did it kind of pop up and become a problem for you while you were playing the NHL?
Yeah, so I can look back and so easily point to times at 7 or 8. I was very drawn to counting. Had to do a lot of counting. I spent a lot of time counting. Had some other things, these type of obsessions and compulsions. It started to really get bad. As soon as I turned pro, which it's typically around 19, people have like seems to have more of a traumatic event or something of that nature. But I was probably a little bit more pressurized and started thinking about, is my body going to be injured? How am I going to stop it from being injured? And started having this ruminescent obsessions. And, that just started very, very early on in my professional career, and, certainly wore me out. And, I'm kind of surprised it lasted that long with how much it was kind of wearing me out.
Because I have people, I know people with OCD as well. And I think you and I have talked about this, the difference of someone just simply walking out a door and they have to like touch things a certain amount of times, or, things like that. Like, is that similar to like what you were dealing with? I know yours was more like you're focused on something that would consume you. and you could talk about that with like your skates and stuff when you played. But like, is there a difference between those levels of like OCD where can someone, you said take care of yourself. Like if someone doesn't take care of their OCD, like what happens?
I think it becomes really debilitating, and I've only seen it slightly to, like where somebody becomes completely debilitated, and I've kind of experienced it as well, to an extent. But yeah, in terms of taking care of it, the best therapy out there right now for it is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as exposure response therapy. So, I mean, it's also for any anxiety disorder. So essentially, if you have anxiety and you try to avoid it or try to do something about it, it makes it worse. It creates a negative feedback loop in your brain. So like with OCD, you have the obsession, that's the O, then you have the compulsion, gets rid of it. So your anxiety is decreased, but then it comes back. So you have to keep doing it. The loop keeps making it worse and worse. So basically CBT and exposure response therapy is, giving you a little bit of distance so you don't react and create that negative feedback loop, or, react to anxiety, which makes it worse and worse. So it just kind of stops the rumination at the beginning. And, on top of that, you can do obviously a lot of talk therapy, psychoanalyzing childhood stuff. I think it's all good. It's fun to hit everything from every angle. And yeah, and as you kind of described, my obsession was skates. I had an obsession that my skates were wrong. I would retie them. I would get 1 minute of relief, followed by, oh my gosh, my skates are wrong, which just led to a whole lot of tying my skates in my career.
Well, yeah, tying them till your hands bled. And when you do get into psychoanalysis and you do graduate, Willie, Tim, you have to do a psychoanalysis on Tim, okay? Because I really want to find out how this guy evolved in this world. He's a special case.
I mean,
he's a special case.
Give me a discount at least. I'll be here. Whatever.
He'll be a case study.
I'm in.
He'll be in a free.
Whatever you need to do.
Be a free trial.
So, Colin, the tying of the skates. You tie your skates that give you some relief. When you talk debilitating, it's difficult enough to get ready to play an NHL game. Going on the road, you play one game one night, you back to back, you got 4 games a week sometimes. It's tough. And people don't understand how difficult it really is to play in the NHL. That being said, with all that, plus the OCD, how give us an example of one of those debilitating times, I guess.
During my career, my one contract year, which was somehow my best year, and that's what the very first year that my skates actually came into the play. I mean, it was just I was going, nights and nights without sleep, really worried about getting to the rink. Like, I developed a fear of going. I could be at the rink, but just thinking about having to throw my skates on for a game would lead to a whole lot of anxiety, and knowing that I had to feel that way. And then, I played the game, and 90% of my thoughts were around my skates. So that was certainly debilitating in that regard, but it more affected my play. I think outside of hockey, there will be times where I just have this thing where I hyper focus in my head, and that's probably been the most debilitating. Where there's just this type of thing I just call a traffic jam, where it ruminates and I try to fix it, ruminates, try to fix it. So that's actually a main cycle that I'm trying to bring up right now. I'm actually in a 4-month CBT program at the moment. But that one I had one that lasted about 3 weeks, where it was just like I couldn't really do much. And that was incredibly challenging, mostly because it's incredibly painful. And you want to do anything you can to get out of it, which makes it worse. It turns into a bit of a Chinese figure trap, trying to get out of it.
I just call it a figure trap.
Yeah, sorry. That's good.
We might have to edit this. I don't know.
Because I am Filipino and I don't want to, But
yeah, true.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna
good.
But like, well, people don't. And I can't relate to what you're saying, but. You literally would go through games where you could score a goal or whatever would happen, but you wouldn't remember, right? Like it's kind of like that part's black. It's like a blur almost. Like that's what people don't realize of like how consuming, you know, something as simple as like tying your skates can really, really do to somebody.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember too much about that year, and I mean to again take away the variable of drugs or something like that. I wasn't. I was kind of drinking like every now and then during that year. There's nothing else involved. It really was just that was kind of straight OCD. In that part, I mean, yeah, if you have a lot of anxiety, or people tend to not have as good of memories if you're in fight or flight the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, it's debilitating. It's quite difficult.
With alcohol and drugs, would it work? Like, you know, like obviously if I'm guessing you're doing those things to like kind of escape what you got really going on, right? That's how, right? Am I wrong, or I don't know?
Well, no, I mean, we could certainly all talk about drug addiction. And
yeah. I'm not judging. I'm just saying I might know a little bit about, you know.
Yeah. No, it's something. Yeah, I mean, of course, anything gives you, you know, you're trying to escape your head. Anybody who goes into addiction, so you know, it does work the first couple times, and that's kind of the issue. So obviously, it gave me some distance, some time away from my head, and that's the issue. The first couple times it works, and then after that, you know, some other things begin to take over.
So you're battling the OCD yourself, which is difficult enough. When does this become an issue around your teammates, management, coaching staff? When does it come to light? And did people understand you? Did they try and help you, or was it like, okay, that kid's a fucking weirdo, we got to stay away from him? Well, because you know how it can be in a locker room like that, right? It can.
Yeah.
You know.
It more came to light. It became an issue, during our Stanley Cup run, which is incredibly unfortunate. You know, there was times where, you know, I just had a couple friends on the team, and then Lavi had called me into the office, just being like, "Hey, are you okay? Something's obviously kind of going on." And I kind of just played it off as whatever, you know, because it kind of seemed like normal life for me. Just it had pushed over. You know, everything had kind of been building.
So, Lavi, meaning Coach Pete Laviolette, how did you like him, by the way?
Yeah.
Curious. Mm-hmm. Did you? Good coach for you?
No, he's a good coach for me. I think he was somebody who brought a lot of energy. You could tell that he cared a lot. He made being at the rink fun as well as challenging. He was one of those coaches that could push you, and at the same time, in pushing you, you knew that he wasn't just being an asshole. So
I hated him.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, I mean, I had him at World Championships, and he didn't know who I was, so I hate him.
So
swear to God,
you didn't get treated.
No,
well.
he was good. He was like really good. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't know who I was. That was true. But you know,
who did?
Like, I met him in like the air, like at the security line at the airport. You know, and he was just like, oh, I don't know, like who, like I'm like it.
You like signed your T-shirt?
Too, like fuck, yeah, like you know, like I played on this team last year. Where were you? No, I'm just kidding. But no, I was just, but he was really good at just, I don't know. I thought he was very good, like just kind of like right before the game, like like not motivator, but he was just very good at kind of getting you ready.
Rah-rah, was he a bit of a rah-rah?
Yeah, but I think it was like a fun rah. It really, because I tend to not like rah-rah. No, he made it fun. So I enjoyed it, but yes. I didn't know if he had a lot more, you know, larger pom-poms to World Championships. But
no, he gave this kind of like it was like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't like rah-rah, but it was like shit, like, I'm pumped.
Now, Pete is from Massachusetts, right? And I ended up playing with him when I was with the Rangers. He was on the minor league team at the time. We had a couple of injuries. He gets called up. And Michel Bergeron was our coach, the Tiger, Le Petit Tigre, right? And he was like crazy. Like Michel was intense, emotional, and everything. We're having a scrimmage, and Peter gets burnt by Tomas Sandstrom. And afterwards, he breaks his stick on the net. And he had just got called up. Bergeron, he stops the practice. Who the fuck you think you are, tabarnak? You break your fucking stick. You play the rest of the fucking scrimmage with no stick. So, here he is. Fucking out there. The rest of the shift, he plays with no stick. He's getting burnt, embarrassed. Then he goes back on the bench, and he grabs a stick, and he comes back out. And Bergeron says, no, I said no fucking stick for the whole practice about neck. And he took the stick and threw it in. And I'm going to tell you right now, I swear, I think that is the day that Peter Laviolette said, I'm going to be a coach one day, and I will never fucking treat a player like I just got treated. I think he made the decision that day. But it was a funny story playing with him. But, yeah, so Willie, the OCD and... You know, you explained at one time, like, being in a corner like a scared animal. Like, shit, how about being in a situation where, and I've been in plenty of these, and I'm sure you have, and you, Tim, too, where, you know, something bad happens in one game. You got that rivalry team you're up against, and you know you're going in that next game, and the shit's going to happen. Shit's hitting the fan. Someone's dropping the gloves. Someone's going to get slashed. Someone's going to get cross-checked. And you know it's coming. Like, how did that affect you?
I would act sick. I would just have the flu. I would have the flu.
No, we know. Would that be the Filipino flu?
Yeah. It's just the flu. We call it just the flu.
Okay.
Obviously, I was in a slightly different role where I wasn't too... And the game has changed with that. Game changed. It changed.
But they had some.
No,
of
but
those,
I had
right?
the big games, which is weird, like the playoffs, where I just felt like I was out of my mind type thing. Like, yeah, it would certainly build. Yeah, it was difficult, but it really felt like every game was kind of like that. And I was more worried about I think I felt more like the back-to-backs, or if I had 4 and 6, a 4 and 6 or something like that. That's where I was kind of like, oh shit, like. This one's going to be very difficult because there's going to be no chance for me to recover here. I know I can't sleep. So those would be more difficult when I was looking at the schedule versus anything. And it didn't really matter. I was thinking so much about kind of myself and my skates that other.
I was gonna say, like, were you just like, fuck, I gotta tie my skates a lot?
I was like, I don't care.
This road trip.
I don't care if I'm playing against Crosby or not. Like, I gotta get my skates right again. So it's it felt more to that. But I do remember it was against the Chicago Blackhawks, game 1. I really played and literally out of my mind. I had 2 goals in the first period, and I went into the game going, how am I gonna play this one? So that was a good testament to the way the brain works, because it's just somewhere in there that I can skate, and continue to do that.
How about the brain working this way? All the macho stuff in the NHL locker room and on the ice and playing with pain and da. Were you worried that teammates would find out and maybe be a little embarrassed by your OCD? Did that ever play in?
It was weird because even though I knew, I had something going on, like from 19 on, I was kind of like, okay, there's something there. I think it still became a very difficult position, even when recognizing that something had to change, just the vulnerable piece. I think anybody, the locker room is a little bit more masculine for sure. But I think everybody has difficulties with humility and vulnerability, and for somebody like myself who really had never tried to experience any of those aspects, I think it became more challenging regardless of where I was. But even within that, I think my Colorado locker room and the guys were pretty great and pretty open, and like Tyson Barrie and Nathan McKinnon, I would actually talk to them all the time about it, and we all talked about our stuff, so it actually turned into pretty healthy relationships within the room.
Did you ever come across a teammate that did you ever come across, obviously you don't have to name teammates, but
naming
someone...
them all.
Yeah, that's what this is about, throwing people under the bus and just ruining lives. But no, seriously, did you ever have someone you came across in your career where you they knew you're like, this guy has exactly kind of what I'm going through, and or probably not, I'm assuming.
No, but I've had teammates reach out, after writing articles. But even with it, but outside of that, I think I give more props to the guys that I played with the guys who went and got sober while or before I played them, if we're just going to talk about the arena of mental health.
The other guys that like fucking through their lives that were trying to like throw their lives away. Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying really hard. Yeah. We all tried our best.
I'm guilty. No.
Yeah, but Jordan Tutu, he went mid-season, and he came back a different person, and ever since then he really has been, and Brian McGrattan coming in, Dickie Clune, Austin Watson. These were all guys that, I was going through stuff, and I would still kind of look at them and go, oh, geez, I wonder what that's about. It had absolutely no lens, kind of pointed in my own direction.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to get in touch with your feminine side playing in the NHL and being in the locker room. I get that, sharing your emotions and your feelings. So you're dealing with that OCD, and I get that. And you gave a great description in one of your articles, and I'm going to read it if it's okay. What they don't tell you about cocaine or ecstasy or any similar drugs is that they undo years of your brain's wiring in seconds. The chemicals released in our mind when we succeed, when we fall in love, when we have that amazing moment. Cocaine and other drugs will bypass all that and release them immediately. It hammers on that button, that feel-good button, and it presses it 1,000 times a minute. Buttons that should only be pressed a few times a week or a month. It hijacks our natural physiology. Now, man, when I read that, I feel like I'm destined to be like brain dead in another 5 years because that button got pushed big time, right? But
you got a little ways to go, Nux.
Yeah, but that statement, it's an unbelievable description, and the OCD having that, obviously, you said it kind of contributed to that, but playing in the NHL and being involved in the cocaine piece, like how difficult was that? It must have been. Now, listen, I played in the NHL. Tim did. I drank. Yeah, I had fun. I didn't do drugs while I was playing in the NHL. I don't know how I would have. And I've done that drug before. And I've got up in the, I went to bed at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning and had that fucking guilt. And I don't know how I could have walked into a locker room the next day after fucking spending all night snorting coke and being out. How'd that fucking work for you?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned in the article as well. I think there was I haven't read it probably since it came out. I think I mentioned there was one or two kind of breaking points, and those were the only two times that I had done anything the night before practice. I tended to keep, which is another reason why I kind of for a while was I don't necessarily have a problem, because I wouldn't do it unless I had the day off and knew I had some time to kind of recover. But yeah, no, it's horrible. That is probably the worst feeling that you can have. It just, talking about hammering that button. Well, the brain is always in balance, and if you hammer a button too many times, the brain responds and wants to be in, imbalance. So something like that, your dopamine receptors actually kind of get soaked down, so you actually don't even have as much available, and that feeling is just the worst because of it. So I look back, and those were kind of the two breaking points, and I'm glad that I had the wherewithal to be okay, these are two times where my job is being affected and I'm still acting this way, which tends to be, that is one of the leading definitions of addiction is avoiding the negative consequences, and that's kind of where I was, and it was something I would I wouldn't recommend to anybody. Although the way you write it kind of sounded like an ad. I was kind of oh, what is this stuff? It sounds pretty solid. But no, I think it's bad days. It's putting gasoline on the fire as well if you have OCD or any anxiety disorder.
Yeah, no, I think this was it's an amazing description, because I obviously have my own journey in trying to be the best I can be for me, but like you know, just kind of talking with other people that are trying to, you know, be better, you know, that struggle with addiction and all that. I mean, it's like years, you know, before you like start, you know, some of it's, you know, then it's like the first year, it's like years. They're like, it's physical, mental. It's like what you wrote here, and that it is a really important what you just wrote of like what you're actually doing to your natural brain, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I think the whole reason I wrote the article is just because I wanted people to understand it better. I wanted people to understand what addiction is, and I think that you know, that what you read out there is a very good you know, a very good descriptor of it. And I think, you know, through my journey of addiction and looking at, you know, the way that I viewed it, you know, previous to being on the other side of that kind of invisible line and, you know, becoming addicted myself, I just wanted to, you know, break barriers and get people kind of thinking about it. And that was, you know, that was one of the ways, and I'm glad that, you know, it resonated. With
is there a
others.
comparison between OCD and, can you compare OCD and addiction, or is it kind of like they go more like hand in hand?
They feel to me sometimes like cousins. Because there's times, so like, for example, I'm back in school. So I wrote a paper, and there was one line out of like a 6-page paper that I was like, it feels wrong. And this is kind of the way that this will be like another good descriptor of OCD. But I was like, no, I think it feels wrong. Okay, I need to change it. And I go back and I change one word around, put the laptop down. I start walking away, and it's like, no, it's wrong. And I went back, and every single time I went to do it, I would feel better, and then I'd start walking away. And it does kind of remind you of a drug, because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go back and feel better. I want to do it. And like, it's like this urge that you have to go back. Like I had this urge to go back and fix that line. And it wasn't until 15, 20 times down the road, and it was really strong, this negative reinforcement pattern. And all of a sudden the anxiety is even higher, making you want to go back further and further. So it does, the behavior is very similar in that. And, you know, I was avoiding negative consequences at the time, but I mean, at the same time, it's also very different and working in different systems in the brain.
Do you feel like you're continuously learning? You know what I mean? Or do you feel like you know everything about your situation? You're aware of it, or do you feel like the more are you trying to like better, like learn more and more? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, trying to learn more and more. I think it's a huge part of myself that I'm trying to work on is humility, and I think the more that I know, the more I don't, and it's been pretty humbling to realize. And I think I'm trying to understand more, and that's been like a huge reason to go back to school. I wanted, and it was at the beginning, you know, thinking I could, you know, this addiction thing or this OCD thing, that we just will find a pill. And I was like back going, okay, I'm going to find this pill and we'll be good. Wouldn't be as fun as, Molly, but it'll be a pill. So I've been, looking for that, but I don't know. I like learning. It calms my brain down. So I'm glad that that's my hobby, and that's kind of how I feel about it.
We're in conversation with Colin Wilson, former NHLer, played with Colorado, Nashville Predators. Now back at school with all the 18-year-old kids. So that's awesome. Listen, Willie, when you think of all the struggles, right, and I look back at my career, right, I get up today, my fucking hips, my shoulders, my hands, I got trigger finger, I got a new knee, I've had like multiple surgeries, like crazy. I have my good days. I have my bad days. When you look at all the struggles, everything, that journey, however painful it was, you look back on it when you fulfilled your dream of playing the NHL. It was your dream, right, as a kid?
Most certainly was. Yeah. And
it's all worth it, right, for you when you look back now?
Yeah, I think anybody can look back on their past and want to change things, and I certainly can't be born again spiritual person being like, I can look back and think everything went as it was planned, because shit, would I change some things? But no, I think I can certainly have compassion for myself in the areas where I was coping wrong. And at the same time, I did get to live out my childhood dream, and it was my dream. And to be a kid from Winnipeg and make the NHL
Greenwich, Connecticut. Let me correct you. Greenwich,
I know.
Connecticut.
I'm a Greenwich
You're
kid. I'm a
American.
Greenwich kid.
All right.
My dad,
okay.
yeah, my dad's a banker. And yeah, no, it's it was worth it, and I get to be, here and alive, and same as you, I'm feeling those aches and pains on a regular basis, but it's there's lessons in it all, and I'm working to see where the lessons are as opposed to just getting incredibly frustrated.
Well, can you, while you're working at it, can you share maybe some of those lessons from your career, the OCD, the drug addiction, and how is that, like, I guess moving forward? You said you want to be more humble. Wait till you get married and have that baby, that first one. You will be humbled, believe me. But yeah, like looking at that. And yeah, it's all worth it. But what are some of those lessons you take from that career and going through all you went through moving forward?
I mean, there's been a very radical shift in, I guess I'll just call it like an overarching, more of a conscious behavior, which, I think I've been quite self-involved for a good portion of my life. I didn't really care too much about relationships. I didn't have too much of a relationship with myself. I mean, we can list off the humility aspects, all these, vulnerability, these aspects, which, I think is, a part of the human condition and really helps you. And I think I put up a lot of walls, cared about the wrong things. And I, just looking at it, but I still can understand why. But I think that there's a lot of lessons to be said for, a proper, more meaningful way of living. And I'm trying to align myself with that. But I mean, again, looking back, I can understand why I had no clue that way of life even existed.
Yeah, you're getting there. You'll get there. We all, it's funny when you look back and you can pick it apart 9 ways till Sunday. I look back at some of my stuff in hockey. Oh my God. And just at this point in your life and what you're doing now, yeah, certainly look back and there's a lot of good lessons you can learn moving forward. I wish you all the best moving forward. I do. You've really been generous with us and you're a good man. And say hi to Mom and Dad.
No, thank you, Willie. It's always good, man. It's I've been blessed to cross paths with you and appreciate your time.